Hello and welcome to EWTN Pro-Life Weekly, your weekly dose of the top pro-life news and issues from a Catholic perspective. I'm Catherine Saltner in our Washington, D.C. studio. Here's what we have planned for you in this show. We hear from Chile, the nation that recently dropped their abortion ban. A new campaign launches to elect pro-life judges, and a brave mother turns down cancer treatment to save her unborn child. But first, our top story, South Carolina's governor cuts off funding for abortion clinics with an executive order. Governor Henry McMaster signs an executive order last week directing state agencies not to allocate state and federal money to healthcare providers who are in any way affiliated with abortion clinics, including Planned Parenthood. McMaster also told the South Carolina Department of Health and Human Services to request waivers from the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services so the state can stop Medicaid funding for Planned Parenthood in South Carolina. Funds instead would be available to comprehensive health care alternatives. Joining us now is the Honorable Marilyn Musgrave, former U.S. Representative for the state of Colorado and the Vice President of Government Affairs for the Susan B. Anthony list. As always, it's good to have you here.
Good to be here.
So what struck you most about this pro-life executive order in South Carolina?
Well, it was so encouraging, and I love the verbiage in there, the words it said. South Carolina has a custom and a long-standing tradition of protecting and defending the life and liberty of unborn children. So that kind of language is so encouraging to all of us that love the unborn children, and to think that this governor would take that courageous stand is so encouraging.
Now, Governor McMaster was only able to take this step because of a law that President Trump signed back in April. What exactly does that law allow the governor to do?
Well, in the waning days of the Obama administration, he gave Planned Parenthood a gift. You know, he told states, if you take away Medicaid funding from Planned Parenthood, you aren't going to get any Medicaid money. Well, we had Joni Ernst, Senator Ernst, and Representative Diane Black champion H.J. Res 43, and that was signed into law by President Trump that said states indeed can redirect those dollars to other providers that do not do abortions. So that's a good day, and I love seeing the governor of South Carolina do exactly that. And he also directed South Carolina's Health and Human Services to make a list, to ask for waivers from the Trump administration. And he also instructed those in his state to make a user-friendly list of other providers, because quite frankly, Planned Parenthood is not the only game in town. In fact, services for women are out there, and the list will include any that are 25 miles from an abortion facility, and it will show that these providers outnumber Planned Parenthood facilities an astonishing 134 to 1.
That's right. I was going to ask you about that. That is an astonishing number, 134 of those compared to one Planned Parenthood or to one abortion clinic. So what now can this money do to all of those community health centers?
Well, the funds will be redirected to those healthcare providers. Those are the places that women can get comprehensive health care. They don't do abortions. And you know, when we talk about Planned Parenthood and the services that they tout, they're really 35% of the national abortion market. But yet when you look at the so-called services they provide for women, there's hardly any prenatal care, cancer screening, HIV testing. Those numbers are all going down in Planned Parenthood facilities. They really are the abortion giant in this country, and what a good day when those dollars will go to those other providers that are very numerous.
Abortion is their business. So South Carolina, as we've reported, has defunded abortion clinics through state funding, but they're still getting Medicaid funding. So what are the next steps to change that? Well,
Again, the governor has said that Health and Human Services should apply for waivers with the Trump administration, and the administration should indeed grant those waivers immediately, and also do the same for other states that are working to defund Planned Parenthood and put those dollars into facilities that provide comprehensive health care for women.
Do you expect after this move that Governor McMaster made that other governors will take notice and maybe follow his footsteps in this? What do you expect?
Well, when we look at the country, 20 states have passed the Unborn Child Pain Capable Act, which bans abortion after the 5th month at the point which the unborn child can feel pain. Since 2010, we have seen 330 pro-life laws passed in this country. So what we have is a stand-up governor like this that will encourage other governors to do the same, and it makes such a difference. We've seen states like Pennsylvania and Montana where governors have blocked pro-life legislation. So it's a good day when we see a pro-life governor enacting policies that will save the lives of unborn children.
Absolutely. It is so good to have you here. The Honorable Marilyn Musgrave of the Susan B. Anthony List. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
For this week's call to action, we want to take the chance to commend an example of positive pro-life action. South Carolina's governor has cut off his state's funding for abortion clinics. Governor McMaster also told the state's Department of Health and Human Services to request waivers from the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services so South Carolina can stop another stream of funding for the abortion giant, Medicaid funding, and give that money to comprehensive health care alternatives instead. If you want to applaud this pro-life leadership and encourage other governors to take similar action, follow this week's call to action. Go to ProLifeWeekly.com and tell South Carolina Governor McMaster thank you for ensuring taxpayers fund comprehensive primary and preventative care for women and families and not to abortion businesses. If you agree with the governor that South Carolina should be allowed to cut off Planned Parenthood's taxpayer funding through Medicaid and fund community health centers instead, you can show your support by sending this thank you. Abortion is not health care, and we need to send that message loud and clear to our lawmakers. Once again, go to ProLifeWeekly.com and tell South Carolina Governor McMaster thank you for cutting off funding to abortion clinics. As Chile ends its absolute ban on abortions, those defending life in the South American nation respond.
It's sad to see how your country passed by all the scientific evidence, all the reality facts that you see everywhere, pass by all the sense of humanity to approve a law that is completely ideologized and completely extreme, because this law allowed to do abortion at the 3rd term in the pregnancies.
Chile will now allow abortions in particular cases, including when a woman's life is in danger, when the baby is considered not viable, and in cases of rape. Until now, Chile had been the only country in South America to ban abortions in all circumstances since 1989. Carolina Requena joins us now from Santiago de Chile. Carolina, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much to you. It's a pleasure to me to talk to you today.
You are a Catholic journalist and editorial director of the Center for Catholic Studies. Carolina, Chile has historically been a very pro-life country. Is that still the case, in your opinion?
Really, this is part of an agenda that has been changing values in Chile for more than 30 years from now. And, I can tell you that on one hand, Chile is a developed country, is an example for the other Latin America's countries. But these discussions of abortions come in a moment that Chile is facing the challenge of poverty, health access, and other social inequalities. So the pro-choice movement used this difficult moment for us, for the country, to show the abortion like the solution to these problems. And I think that talking about if Chile is or it's not a pro-life country is really not the question that we should be asking ourselves. The thing is that the question is what we are doing today to help those women that are in situations of vulnerability. The whole discussions have been centered on whether or not the life to the born is a human being or not. But really, the problem is what are the Chilean women suffering today in this situation? They are victims of abuse, of rape. They live in poverty situation. So it's like the discussion, like the public opinion, the people are thinking, okay, the pro-life people, they are not thinking about the women, and that's a lie.
Was the decision to end Chile's ban on abortion widely supported in the nation? Can you give us a sense of the population's reaction?
No, really, the discussion on abortion is not something that worries the majority of Chileans. The Chileans are concerned right now about more like the children's education, health, work, and crime. That's a big issue right now for us. But the issues that the government put in the agenda are not a priority for the nation. I mean, my point of view, Michelle Bachelet is trying to try to cover the mismanagement that they have done in the real social problems, because Michelle Bachelet's popularity has been fallen to record low. So you can infer that she will be looking for to end her presidential term with a greater popularity, and passing by this law is very good for her. You have to remember that she was the director of ONU Women, so she wanted to push this. This is a political goal for President Michelle Bachelet.
Carolina, what about the Chilean bishops or other pro-life voices? How have they been responding to this debate?
The bishops in our country condemn very firmly the decisions of the Congress, but also they encourage pro-life people to continue fighting with a stronger commitment to be with those women that are in these cases situations of vulnerability, to help them, because now they will have the opportunity to decide if they want to practice an abortion or not. And so the bishops told us to be very near to this woman and help them. And in the other hand, pro-life movement react with a lot of disappointment, because they expected a narrow result in the vote, because a person who was expected to produce the technical type, she voted in favor of the law. So they are like surprising and sad, but even though they are still wanted to fight with all the strength.
Carolina Requena of the Center for Catholic Studies, thank you again for your time.
It was a pleasure. See you soon.
California correctional officials are asking state regulators to approve a revised method of carrying out death sentences. The new regulations allow California's death row inmates to be executed using one of two different drugs or choose the gas chamber. Corrections officials filed the revised regulations one day after the state Supreme Court upheld a voter-approved measure to speed up death sentences. The Judicial Crisis Network, a conservative group, launches a $500,000 campaign to stop gridlock in confirming conservative judges. Pro-life leaders say stopping the gridlock is key to ensuring there are pro-life judges at every level. Here's a look at their new ad.
It's a hidden scandal. Democrats abusing Senate rules, using gridlock and obstruction to keep liberals in control of our courts. There are now more vacancies than when Trump took office.
There were 105 judicial vacancies when President Trump took office. The number has now risen to almost 140. The Susan B. Anthony list is joining the Judicial Crisis Network in their campaign to fill the vacancies. Joining us now is Carrie Severino, the Chief Counsel and Policy Director of Judicial Crisis Network. She's previously clerked for U.S. Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas. Carrie, thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Can you share why it's so important to fill out all the judicial nominations at all levels within the U.S. for the pro-life cause?
Well, we so often focus on the Supreme Court, and that's correct. I mean, it's the highest court in the land, but they take far less than 1% of all the cases that happen in the country. So they aren't there to correct every error and make sure that things are running on par here. And we see cases, I think a lot of your viewers will be familiar with, the cases with David DeLayden and the Centers for Medical Progress, undercover videos exposing stem cell express, et cetera. Those cases we're seeing in the court where we have a judge that's refusing to recuse himself despite his links to Planned Parenthood itself, socking them with really unreasonable fines. That's the kind of thing that can happen, and it's so important that not just those high-profile cases, but every case in the system is dealt with fairly, even-handedly, and you have judges who are enforcing the law as it's written and not just kind of making it up on the fly and doing their own thing.
Pro-lifers, and we often speak about the need to have pro-life judges. But does a pro-life judge actually exist? I mean, the late Justice Antonin Scalia wouldn't have considered himself as such.
Right. He was pro-life, but he would have said, I'm not a pro-life judge. His philosophy is, we need to enforce as judges, and you take an oath as a federal judge to uphold the Constitution and to uphold the laws of the country. And luckily for us, the Constitution actually doesn't require abortion. I think that's the problem, is you have people who are reading things into the Constitution that are not in fact there. So you need judges who are going to faithfully interpret the Constitution, and that's a judge that's actually going to, in many cases, come out with pro-life results, because the Constitution itself doesn't take a stand on that issue. That was Justice Scalia's position. I think that's correct.
And same with Gorsuch, to my
Absolutely.
understanding as well. Now, there are more judicial vacancies than when President Trump took office. How is this happening?
It's really shocking. He started office with 105 vacancies. That's more than 4 out of 5 of his predecessors had. But ever since January, it's already ballooned almost a third. We have 139 vacancies now. We know of 21 more that are people who've announced that they're going to retire. So that brings us to 160. I mean, this is skyrocketing. The problem is we have Democrats who have been just so incensed. They're still upset about November's election.
Right.
They're putting the brakes on in every procedural way they can to try to block these nominees from getting confirmed. And it's really threatening to them, particularly because they're very qualified nominees. And you see in particular the qualified women like Justice Joan Larson or Amy Coney Barrett, a Notre Dame professor, who they hate the idea of having really principled, really qualified, conservative female jurists on the courts, because that puts the lie to some of their identity politics, and they know these are people in line for the Supreme Court one day.
And they could have a huge impact. Now, you say we can end this obstruction, though, by adopting Senator James Lankford's gridlock reform proposal. Can you explain that proposal to us?
Right. There's a rule that Democrats are exploiting that lets them force 30 hours of debate at any nominee. Okay. And that's something that didn't normally used to happen, especially for these non-controversial nominees. They're doing it for 100% of Trump's nominees. Even one example I think illustrates it. It was someone he nominated that was a previous Obama nominee. It was a good faith renomination of someone Obama had nominated. He had 100% support in the Senate, 100 votes in favor, but they forced them to run out the clock on all of these procedures. That's really a partisan obstructionism, and it's at the rate we're going. Again, we're outstripping the nominations. We've only had 4 nominations so far. We have 139, almost 160 vacancies coming soon. We need to pick up the pace, and we can't be wasting time that should be spent on the real business of the Senate.
The groups you're partnering with for this campaign, such as the Susan B. Anthony list, will be organizing activists at town halls that are led by Democrats. What's the goal with that?
They want to make sure that the Democrats don't buy into Chuck Schumer's policy of let's just block the Trump administration at every turn. Want to make sure that they're doing things. There's another process called the blue slip process, where home state senators can try to slow the nominees from their state, and we've seen that happen with some senators. I think it's happening right now in Colorado. There's Allison Ide, who's a justice in the Supreme Court. They're very popular in her state, but the senator's not responding to what the interests of his state, and he opposed Gorsuch for the same reasons. Broad bipartisan support in his state, but they're trying to use these procedures. We want people to make sure they're putting pressure on the senators to say, hey, these are justices who are judges who are going to be great on the courts. They're incredibly qualified. They're committed to the Constitution. Let's not throw up roadblocks.
Really make a difference at that grassroots level there. Now, Carrie, while I have you, and as we're speaking about the courts, dare you make any predictions as to whether or not you think President Trump will have any more opportunity to nominate a U.S. Supreme Court justice?
Well, it's impossible to tell when or how or who they would be replacing, but I think it's very likely he will have another nomination. We've got several justices in the court who are in their 80s, and I think it's definitely possible that we'll have another vacancy on the court. I would be thrilled to have that happen, because I'm just so happy with Justice Gorsuch and the quality of that nomination that I think it would be a wonderful thing to have more nominees in that line.
Carrie Severino of Judicial Crisis Network, thanks for being here.
Thanks so much for having me.
When we come back,
I just asked her, I said, what do you want to do? And she just said, I think it's already clear what we're going to do. There's no way that we're getting rid of the baby.
we speak with the family of a brave mother who is choosing her unborn baby's life before her own. Stay tuned as EWTN Pro-Life Weekly continues after this break. Welcome back to EWTN Pro-Life Weekly. I'm Catherine Seltner. Each week in the Speak Out segment, we look at how the culture of death is reflected in our mainstream culture. Unfortunately, it's found all too easily in one popular young women's magazine. Cosmopolitan magazine released an article called Everything You Need to Know About the Abortion Pill in early August. The author writes, the procedure is non-invasive, doesn't require anesthesia, and can almost always be carried out from the comfort of your home. The article then delves into how women can get the abortion pill, including anonymously, and what to expect. This article is titled Everything You Need to Know About the Abortion Pill, but is missing an incredible amount of information. It is so in favor of the abortion pill, it doesn't tell you other things you need to know. First off, to be clear, when a pregnant woman takes the abortion pill, there is no direct medical supervision during this procedure, and the woman can lose her child at any time, anywhere. During this stage of pregnancy, the unborn child already has a heartbeat, fingers, toes, and a tiny developing body. Cosmo, you claim the abortion pill is safe and effective, but neglected to thoroughly review the risks. Planned Parenthood's own consent form for the abortion pill lists the following risks: blood clot in the uterus, infection of the uterus, bleeding too much or too long, and even death. And here is some more crucial missing information. If you have taken the first abortion pill and you regret it, you can still save your child's life. That's right, there is a way to reverse the abortion pill. If you or someone you know has taken the abortion pill, go to abortionpillreversal.com. You can also speak with a hotline nurse now at 1-877-558-0333. Cosmo, as a young women's magazine, you are leading women down a dangerous path where they will take the life of someone else and even hurt themselves. There is a better way to help vulnerable women in unexpected pregnancies, and that's offering the option of life and support, not death. Remember, there is something you can do to counter today's culture of death. Follow this week's call to action. Go to ProLifeWeekly.com. Say thank you to South Carolina Governor McMaster for ensuring taxpayers fund comprehensive primary and preventative care for women and families, and not to abortion businesses. The Catholic Church in 2004 canonized Gianna Beretta Mala a saint for her heroic virtue in choosing the life of her child over her own. St. Gianna refused to get an abortion and died 1 week after her daughter's birth. This week, we introduce you to another woman living in Michigan who is showing great courage to protect her child's life as well. Here is this week's Pro-Life Focus. Greater love has no man than this, than a man laid down his life for his friends. It's a well-known Bible verse, but for the DeKlyen family, it's one that surely hits close to home. Carrie DeKlyen was experiencing severe headaches for 2 weeks before going to the hospital in April. The doctors told the Michigan mother of 5 devastating news. She had glioblastoma, a fast-growing brain tumor. In an exclusive EWTN Pro-Life Weekly interview, Carrie's husband Nick and her sister-in-law Sonia tell us the doctors then performed a routine pregnancy test.
They actually do pregnancy test every time a patient comes in that's a female, and they said that she wasn't pregnant.
But a few weeks later, the doctors realized they were wrong. Carrie was pregnant, and they advised her to get an abortion so she could undergo cancer treatment.
Before we, made a decision, I just asked her. I said, what do you want to do? And she just said, I think it's already clear what we're going to do. There's no way that we're getting rid of the baby.
For Carrie, choosing to keep the baby and forego treatment was a decision based on trust and faith in the Lord.
She said, well, whether I get my healing here or I get my healing in heaven, either way I'm going to be healed.
Since the diagnosis, Carrie has undergone 4 major brain surgeries and suffered a stroke a few weeks back. Ever since, she's been unconscious and has been using a feeding tube and a machine to help her breathe.
Sometimes, if you ask her to squeeze your hand, she might do it sometimes, and sometimes she doesn't.
For the DeKlyen family, the past few months have been life-altering. The 5 kids, ages ranging from 18 years old to 2, have been without their mother. And Nick sold his company in order to be present for Carrie.
I don't really know as far as like what my future holds, it's kind of, I'm just living today and then tomorrow. And, I know that, I'm going to be a single father with 6 kids, 3 under the age of 5.
Their Christian church has been collecting donations, and Nick's sister Sonia has set up a GoFundMe page to support the family's future.
Our goal right now is to have Nick set up so that he can take care of his children, that he's able to stay home with his youngest children until they're in school. So really we have a big goal to set for him, but we really feel like with the support we've been receiving that we'll be able to achieve those goals.
While Carrie is currently weak, their unborn child is strong. Doctors predict the baby may be born with a learning disability, but is still healthy. The growing baby is a girl, and the DeKlyens have decided to name the youngest daughter Life, something they're learning to value more and more each day.
I'm just going to tell her that, Mom gave her life so that my daughter could live.
Motherhood is life-giving, and Carrie DeKlyen's choice reminds us of that.
I would tell everybody that Carrie is the most selfless person, and I'm not just saying that because she's my wife, because she knew that she's probably not going to live, but yet she would lay down her own life for our daughter that is going to be born here in a few months.
Let us continue to keep the entire DeKlyen family in our prayers. And now we have a special programming update. Starting next week, you can catch EWTN Pro-Life Weekly on Thursday nights at 10 p.m. Eastern and again on Sunday mornings at 10 a.m. Eastern. So starting next week, we'll see you here on Thursday. In the meantime, you can reach us anytime at prolifeweekly@EWTN.com. I look forward to seeing you again. Life is a gift. Your life is a gift. God bless.